Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well out there, painting and painting and painting. Okay, I would like to take you on a little bit of a journey with me this week and perhaps next week as well. I'm tasked with a commission. It's quite a big commission, not huge, but it's big enough. I've been asked to paint a beautiful scene, a landscape of Cork City. It's Shandon Bells with all the kind of the rooftops and all of that, very misty kind of a scene. It's going to be, I think, a really lovely tutorial for you. It's primarily kind of buildings, rooftops, that kind of thing, but creating lots of mist, lots of smoke coming out of chimneys and very kind of foggy background. It's, I think, a very good tutorial for learning about creating depth and distance in a landscape. Now, it's kind of based loosely on a tonal painting. So what I mean by tonal painting is it's a very kind of washed out landscape. It's very bleak, let's say, colour wise. So there's not a lot of colour in the landscape. It's almost black and white, but there's a hint of colour popping through here and there in some buildings. So it's kind of a tonal painting, I suppose, in some respects. So not a lot of colour. Very soft, very subdued, very moody colours with lots of mist and fog creeping in here and there above rooftops and just, you know, just creeping into the painting. So it's a very moody painting. It's a very wide landscape with a lot of buildings. It's overlooking the city, basically, overlooking Cork City. And there's a couple of little landmarks off in the distance, kind of coming up out of the fog, and Shandon Bells kind of forefront, you know, popping up out of the mist. So I thought it would make a nice little tutorial for you. I think I'll do this. I wasn't going to record this, but I thought you might like to see the process. It may not be everyone's cup of tea. It's not a traditional landscape in the sense of, you know, snow scenes and sunsets and all that kind of thing. It'll be kind of very loose. It won't be huge amounts of detail in the windows and all of that kind of thing. It's just going to be a kind of a loose impression of the scene. I'm going to show you. I have it on my phone here. I don't know if you can see this properly or not now, but there it is. It's a very loose kind of a darkish, you know, it's kind of very dark down towards the bottom. It fades off into a mist off in the distance. But I kind of loosen it up a little bit more. The customer wants it kind of nice and loose, so they don't want, you know, lots of detail and all this kind of thing. Just a nice loose impression. So join me if you would like to learn about this type of painting buildings in the distance and going across a landscape. You know, you might learn something from it. So let's go. I won't show you my palette because I'm using a big canvas here today. The canvas I'm using is 1 meter by 60, so 100 centimeters by 60 or 50. So it's a very wide landscape, very wide like this. Okay, it's a big landscape. So I can't fit my palette in. So I will just, but we only have a few colours anyway. So I'll show you the process as I'm painting on the canvas. Okay, let's go. Let's have a bit of fun. I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Thank you so much for your support. I'll be right back. Right, here we go, let's do this. Here is my canvas. I hope you can see everything okay, everything is fine. It's a fairly big canvas, isn't it? Yeah, it's nice to do a big canvas for a change. I'm going to not do a sketch. Normally I would put a little sketch in, but I don't think I need to. There's a reference photograph. You should see it somewhere in a corner somewhere. There it is. Lovely soft colours off in the distance. So I'm just going to keep the sky plain. What I'm going to do first is, now I primed my canvas once with an undercoat, just a water-based undercoat. I'm going to now just rub the top half of this with some linseed oil, okay? Regular linseed oil. Bit of tissue, some linseed oil, and I'm going to just give this a nice coat of linseed oil. And that will help my paints float along nicely. Now you can use liquid clear if that's what you have. It's absolutely fine. But the liquid clear may be a little bit too slippery for you. For some aspects of painting, it can be very slippery. I find the linseed oil is just right. It's just oiling the surface of the canvas, that's all. Very, very loosely. Just go around very quickly. I like to do this because it avoids patches on your sky. I find it very annoying sometimes, you know, when you're painting a big landscape like this and you end up with patches of dry paint. This helps to stop that. So I'm just priming the top half of my canvas. There we go. That will do fine. And incidentally, one thing I did do with this canvas, this is a stretched canvas, okay? One thing I did do with the canvas was I took away the center brace. There's normally a center brace coming down in these big canvases, but the problem with those is, no matter how well you stretch and tighten the canvas with your little corner pegs, when you're painting a sky or a landscape or whatever, you do see the line. You always see that line of that center brace. It's very annoying sometimes. So I cut it out with a little saw and I removed the center piece completely. I just took it away. So it's nice and it's still quite bouncy, as you can see, but we won't have that line coming down the center of our painting. Now I will reinstate it again once the painting is finished and dry. I'll brace it back up and I'll tighten it again, but it's fairly good. It still has a nice bounce to it. It's not too loose. All right, enough talking. Come on, enough. Let's get painting. I'm going to take a large brush, very, very large brush, biggest you have, I suppose. Now I need to clean this well because there's a lot of paint still inside this brush. No matter how much you clean the brush, you'll still get remnants of paint, won't you? It always seems to happen. Okay. I suppose I should probably use a clean brush for this, really, a new brush, but I just love this brush. So I have a nice big brush. I'm going to just take some titanium white, a tiny touch of phaylo blue, and I'm going to take a touch of black, tiniest touch of black. I want a very whitey, bluey, grey sort of a shade, okay? I don't know if you can see it on the photograph, but it's a very kind of a bright colour. Now I'm just going to go with this bluish colour for now, and I will lighten it as I go. So I'm just going to put some of this across the top, right across there. And normally when I'm painting like this, I need to work quite quickly because I don't want any dry patches. I don't want this drying in certain spots more than others. I want to be able to blend it all nicely together, so I tend to work quite quickly when I'm painting a big canvas like this. So I'm just going across here now with this colour. And as I was saying earlier, there is a hint of colour in this painting, a very slight hint, but it's a very soft kind of a colour. It's difficult to kind of explain. It's not black and white, there's just a hint of colour throughout the painting. So I want to kind of capture that. Going down here now, maybe a bit too much black in that, a tiny bit more blue and a bit more white. I just kind of want to go for this type of bright morning sky where it's, you know, it's still very bright, foggy and all of that. There's not much colour in the sky in the morning, so I'm just going for that effect. I'm just going to keep blending all of this together now. Blend, 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 blend. That's the important part. I don't want any separation or any lines or anything like that between the two colours. So I'm just basically going from a darker colour to a lighter colour down underneath. Basically that's what I'm doing. I'm just going right into some white now, because see, the bit of colour I have in my brush will still come out. I'm just keeping this very loose, very simple. And I'll keep going. I might add a touch of Naples yellow into that, just a touch. Only a slight touch to give a slight bit of a glow in the sky as it comes down. Only a slight glow. And it does help, a little touch of Naples yellow. Now I did put on a kind of a thin layer down around, you know, I might have to go over some of this with a slightly thicker paint, just to help it cover that little bit better, if you know what I mean. Putting on thin layers of paint on a big sky like this can sometimes cause problems. You will get some dry spots if the paint is too thin. It just soaks right through the canvas. So I may have to go over some of this later and just, again, add some thicker paint to it. Now you can only just see a slight hint of a bluey shade up there, can't you? That's all I want, really. It's only a very slight shade. Now I'm just going to get some more titanium white on my palette. Get plenty of that on there. We're going to be using plenty of it, so we'll put plenty on. Let's not be shy. Let's not be shy with the paint. Come on, it's only paint. And go back into that white and a touch of the bluey shade again, and just scrape that across. I can already start to see slight little patches here and there, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but particularly across the top where that brace touches the canvas, behind the canvas, there's a slight line. You probably can't see that now, but I can see a slight line going across that. But that's fine because the frame will cover that. So I always allow for the frame to cover the size of my canvas and the top as well. So I don't really mind. It's okay. It's fine. And as I said, I probably will add an extra tiny bit of colour just on the top later. So I'm going to come down another bit and then start putting some buildings into the distance. All right, that's the process. Just come down another small little bit, and I'll work my buildings into this background then when it's wet, nice and wet and soft, and we'll just soften it through a couple of buildings into the distance, bit by bit. That's when it gets fun. You know, this part is boring really. It's just putting a colour across a canvas. Okay, so you might want to you probably will just skip along. And I completely understand that as well. Absolutely fine. Right, I think I'm about there. I think it's time to start adding a slight hint of land off in the distance. For this, I am going to go with little black, little phthalo blue, and a tiny touch of Naples yellow, and then plenty of white. So it's a kind of a greeny grey colour. All right, and there's a little bit of blue in this, just to push it off into the distance. Let's take a look. Okay, we have a bit of a land going across the back there. It's a suggestion of the hills off in the distance. And I don't want a solid line in this. I want it nice and soft, so I'm just going to keep running my brush over that joint up there, look. There we go. Nice soft land off in the distance. Now bring that right down now, that colour, and then I can put other colours into that. Now I might put a bit of white here and there as well, just to make it a bit more misty. So you see, it's kind of disappearing off into the distance in some parts. And the principle of these kind of landscapes is that as it comes further down and closer towards you, they get darker and darker. That's the principle of these types of paintings. So I'm now going to go into some burnt umber, a little touch of phthalo blue, and I don't want it too rich. Maybe a touch of black as well. So I'm going again for a very kind of a dull, sort of a grey hue, okay? And I'm just going to kind of have a look here now first at that. Okay, that's not bad. I'm going to pop that in like this. So this is going to be the next layer further down, all right? And I don't know if you can see on the photograph, you probably can't because it's so far away, but we have little bits of tree tops and buildings and all of that kind of popping up. It's all just very, very random. So I'm just going to pop it in very randomly like this, just to give a suggestion of bits of this and bits of that, okay? That's what it's all about. It's, again, I will say that a lot in these tutorials. It's a bit of this and a bit of that. So you can't really tell what they are, but it's little objects off in the distance, suggestions of maybe tree tops and buildings and all of that. It's very, very loosely suggestive. Now, there is a building off in the distance, the County Hall, the Cork County Hall. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's there. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to put it in around here, okay? There is a building off in the distance that I can see, and I know it's there. It's called the Cork County Hall. It's very, very far away, and I'm just going to maybe just blue it up just a little bit more, and I'll straighten it then later with a fine straight angle brush, okay? But I just want to get the suggestion of that hall in. It's just a very tall building off in the distance, and then I'm going to soften back in around it and all of that. Touch more, maybe a touch of burnt sienna. Just warm ever so slightly over here. So you can kind of begin to see what I'm trying to do. It's just very loosely suggestive, isn't it? I'm going to add little hints of a darker shade here and there, a bit of burnt umber perhaps, just to, again, neutralize some of the greeny shades in all of this. I don't want too much greeny shades, but there is a bit of that in the landscape here and there. Now we have a kind of a hill going up this side, don't we? So let's just go up there with the hill first like that. This is a very therapeutic way of painting, I'll be honest. You should try it. It's very rewarding. It's very therapeutic, it's very rewarding, and you'll see, as you're painting this, it may not look like much, okay? But when you sit back and take a look, you'll see, I mean, even now you can see, picking out little bits of the cityscape all the way along, the tops of buildings and little bits of tree tops and all of that kind of thing, poking up here and there. And that's what you want. That's what you want. It's just a very loose suggestion. That's all I'm trying to get at. Very loose suggestion. Now, I'm taking some Naples yellow with some white, touch of burnt umber, and I'm just going to pop some of that in here. Again, a little bit of colour here and there. It's just a suggestion. White Naples yellow for this. So the way I work this is, I generally put in a kind of, a very rough shade of a colour here. And then when that's in, I go for a slightly smaller brush and start putting in details. That's generally how I work my cityscapes. I would say that's probably the best way and the easiest way of creating a nice cityscape. So I'm going to show you there now in just a moment how I'm just going to get a little bit of blue. Just want to pop a little shade of a mauvey kind of a colour in here and there. So a little bit of phaylo blue with a little touch of magenta. And that just adds a bit of depth into the painting. So you can see I'm just being very spontaneous and very loose with all of this. Okay, I have a nice soft distant background in. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush, a flat brush. Now I have a nice brand new flat brush for this. Just going to dampen it and dry it first. this is where I start putting in little details. So for example, at the back of this we have a little shadow. I'm going to put that shadow in, like so. Just leave it disappear off. Then I'm just going to cut off the top here just to add a suggestion of detail, you see. Just a slight suggestion. And then I'm going to darken it as it comes down towards the bottom. As it disappears down into the city below. So now we already have a little hint of detail there, don't we? A slight hint. And then I basically just go along and I refine some of the details. So I'll just kind of pop a few of these uprights in. Look, it could be anything at all. Anything. Just a suggestion of buildings kind of poking their heads up in the distance. Okay, just like that. See, you're just popping little suggestions of this and that in, here and there. Now I do know there's a bit of kind of a church over here on the hill. I'm going to pop that in. Sunday's Well Church. I'm going to put a suggestion of that in. Just over here. And you see, you can't actually see the details of the buildings, but you know they're there. And that's the whole point of this type of a painting. You know they're there. Now I am going to take a soft blender brush and just very gently kind of soften around some of those into the background as well, you see? Just getting rid of the brush strokes. So it's all become nice and kind of fuzzy and misty. Okay? And that's already quite a bit done, isn't it, in the landscape? And I'm going to do the very same with this brush with some light colour. So let's say a little bit of Naples yellow and a little bit of white. And just to catch some very bright highlights. So some of these buildings may be kind of catching the sunlight here and there. Let's start with this one, look. A bit of sunlight there, a little bit there. It's good to have a few lights because it tells a story. It tells a story about which direction the sun is coming from. And right now the sun is coming from behind us, hitting the fronts of these buildings here, or the sides, or whichever. It's just coming from behind us. You see, I'm just putting little suggestions of little buildings. It could be just the whites of the buildings showing up. Now doesn't that just look fantastic, just as it is? Already we have this beautiful kind of a misty cityscape cropping up. The next thing I'm going to do is, now this is a very simple technique for you to try as well, okay? We just get a rough brush. It needs to be a clean brush. I'm not going to use a dirty brush. I have a habit of picking up dirty brushes, and you know, it's my own fault. I pick up dirty brushes sometimes. I'm going to start putting some mist in around here. I'm going to take some white and I'm going to just start putting a little bits of mist in and around the centre of the city. The cityscape now is very misty. There's a lot of fog and all that kind of stuff floating across the city centre. So I'm just going to put little swirls of white here and there. You see how that creates some lovely mist and fog and all of that. And it's a great way of creating a particular mood in your painting. It's a great way. Put a bit more down here. That's quite nice now, isn't it? It's just making it lovely and soft. And not only that, I also want to create some smoke coming from chimney tops and that kind of thing, because you will always get a lot of that in a cityscape, especially in Cork City. We have lots of older buildings and they still burn their coal fires. So I'm going to put a little bit of that here and there. Now the trick with this is to come from a light up to a dark. So you see the way this is disappearing because it's too light. I'm going to take slightly duller colour, okay, a little bit of a grey shade, and I'm going to start darkening it as it comes up into the sky, ever so gently. So just to simulate the smoke coming out of chimney tops and sort of floating away up into the sky and disappearing, you see. Now, that's one. Isn't that just lovely? Let's go with another one. Should we try another one? And bear in mind, the wind will be going in the same direction. So they're all going to be going in the same direction. That's the important thing with all of this. So we put another small one over here. And the smoke is coming up and disappearing into that sky. Isn't that just gorgeous? You see how easy that was? Let's put another one around here. Let's even things up a little bit. And there's a lot of factories and stuff like that, so they could be burning fuel and all that kind of thing. That's quite nice now, isn't it? Then I'll take a little bit of white and I'll put a little white one here, cutting through the dark. So you're getting the impression then that, you see, there's little hidden rooftops here and there. And I'd suggest one or two. One or two little flat tops just poking up here and there. Now already we have quite a bit done, don't we? Already, isn't that just amazing? And the final step of this, I would say, is just to take a small detail brush and let's just pop a few tiny details in, just here and there, with some burnt umber, a bit of black perhaps, and let's just put some final details. It's only just a suggestion, okay? That's all it is. There could be little chimney tops and all of that. It's only just for a little bit of interest and to catch the eye. Do you understand what I mean by that? It's just catching the eye. These little small details. And they can always just be softened back in again, etc. So you don't have to worry that this is how it's going to finish, okay? And there we go. Small details. A few here and there makes a big difference, doesn't it? Let's put a couple, just switch a few around with your brush. Just make a few marks. Okay? That is looking pretty good, I think. I'm just going to come up and just start darkening a little bit up here. Again, roughing that up just a small bit. It's a very big hill we have up here, with little buildings and stuff like that poking up. And once I'm finished this side, and I think I'll call this part one. I don't want to run through it too quickly. You know, I want to take my time. But it's a lot of fun doing this. It really is. I would say to you, do try a little cityscape like this. If you live somewhere where there's a nice little view like this, looking over the city, even if it's a nighttime scene with lights and stuff like that. And you may think to yourself, it looks very complicated. Just try this technique, keeping everything loose, okay? Honestly, it does work. It does work. Just always avoid looking for details and looking at all the little details. Just try and keep it simple. And I promise it will work. Just bypass all of the details in the painting and just try and simplify the entire scene. That's all you have to do. Now, a little bit of detail with the brush here. Let's get some little rooftops and stuff like that in. A suggestion of little things, that's all. I'm keeping this super loose, very, very loose. I'm not trying to paint every little detail. I'm just suggesting a few little things here and there which might catch your eye. And I'll do the same with a little touch of Naples yellow. I'll suggest one or two little pieces here and there. It's only just to, as I said earlier, give you a little impression of the scene. So, you know, lots of buildings. And finally, over on this side now, I'm just going to, let me just turn the camera slightly so you can see a little bit better. And I might zoom in as well. Okay, now that's okay. And I'm just going to pop a few details in there as well. So I'm going to just put a suggestion of a roof there. You could put a suggestion of a roof there. Okay, you see what I mean? Just very loosely. And it's all just little lines, all right? Just little swishes of lines with your brush. And that just really captures the impression. Okay, finally, I'm going to put some smoke up out of this. I'm going to get some white on my brush and very gently allow that colour to come up, a bit of white, and the white will pick up the grey, you see what I mean? And you'll get that lovely smoky effect. So I'm going to put quite a few in here. There we are. My friends, I am calling this part 1 finished. I hope you've enjoyed this section. It's just a nice simple section, okay? I don't want to make it too complicated. It's just a simple, loose suggestion of buildings and all of that disappearing into a landscape. That's all it is. And there we are. Part 1 finished. Zoom in and show you. You see? It's just a very loose impression of a cityscape. So lots of impressions of little buildings and stuff like that going on. A bit of everything, okay? But we will get down to the nitty-gritty in part 2, where we have lots of strong detail coming up. Let me just turn this camera here now, just a moment. So we have lots of strong detail coming up in part 2, where we will paint the big, thicker buildings coming forward, and lots more detail. So do join me in part 2. I hope you've enjoyed part 1, and just try something, just try something like this. Keep it simple, keep it loose, add lots of mist into the cityscape. It does give a lovely effect. So yes, take photographs of places where you live, like the city, overlooking cities. Take photographs and try it, because you will be very surprised. I promise you. I'll see you very soon back in part 2. Thank you very much.